During orientation, I remember the professor told us to look left and to look right because half of the students that we saw in the room weren't going to be there at the end of the year. Hello, I feel like this is so close. Let me just see. Ladies and gents, welcome back to Kimia Kay's channel. It's been quite some time. We're going to talk about law school. We're going to talk about everything I know about why you should or shouldn't go to law school and what I think the three most important things are when considering this question. And the number one thing is your motivation. The number two thing is your mobility. And the number three thing is your money. So let's get into it. This is obviously not my 9 to 5 and I really enjoy doing this. So my only goal is to create a very genuine community. And so if you like these kinds of videos, I would love for you to join. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into the three most important things you need to consider before you go to law school. I have my notebook here because I took lots of notes for you guys like a good student. Okay, so the first thing that you need to have is motivation. You need to have motive. Motive is extremely, extremely important. It's the most important thing because you need to know what your why is. If you don't have a why, you're not going to be propelled through those hard times in law school because trust me, even if you were valedictorian in undergrad, law school will humble you. Law school humbles people and you have to be willing to fall down and get back up in order to really make it. When I first started my 1L year during orientation, I remember the professor told us to look left and to look right because half of the students that we saw in the room weren't going to be there at the end of the year. For us, having that fear, I think it was a motivation, but if the end goal isn't something that you really, really desire, it's not going to carry you through with just sheer competition, you know? And law school is very competitive. It can get ugly at some places. Thankfully, in my experience, I had wonderful experience. I didn't have, horror stories. People sabotage others, and it can be a really dog eat dog world. So is that the saying? Dog eat dog? I don't know, but you know what I'm trying to say. It can be intense. You need to have a why. It can't just be, I want to shut up my parents. Trust me, because the beginning, my motivation to go to law school wasn't really there. And that's another thing I kind of want to touch on. You don't have to have it all figured out in order to have motive, okay? You just have to have this feeling of you're in the right place at the right time. That's how I felt. I just constantly trusted my intuition. And I knew that no matter what I did with a law degree, that it was fundamental to my career. And it meant a lot to me to prove to myself that I could do it and to change the legacy for all the generations that come after me. I'm a first generation Iranian-American. I am the first woman in my family to be a lawyer. I'm the first lawyer in my family, period. And maybe I will share with you guys one day what the real story is behind me going to law school and what really influenced that. But for now, I will say that it was probably the worst event that's ever happened to me in my life that led to the catalyst of the biggest achievement I've ever had in my life. Being able to transmute anything that happens to you, anything bad that happens to you, into pure energy and motivation to go get what you want and what you know you deserve. So I think that if you don't have that ability, then you're going to fail in law school. It is a mental endurance Olympics, okay? It's not what you know, but it's how you keep your cool in moments of stress. I remember at the end of your first semester of 1L year, that's when the biggest cut happens. So that's when they generally cut the bottom 10% of the class. So naturally that is the biggest, the first semester of the first year of law school is the most stressful, okay? Not to mention the cold calling. Cold calling is when you get called on with no prior notice. You just randomly get called on to answer a question, and you better know it. You better have done your readings because it's random. Things like that where they truly haze you almost, and they make it very difficult so that they can get the cream of the crop. They can get the best of the group, and those are the people that get to move on. The bottom half, so it's the 50% cut. It's not a 10% cut, if I said that earlier. It's the bottom 50%. They either usually go on academic probation, or they're asked to come back next year after they've spent some more time studying. You're coming from an area where maybe you were the smartest person in the room, and now you are no longer the smartest person in the room. So you really have to learn to listen and be a student. And if you aren't humble and you aren't gritty, in the sense that when someone tells you no, you're not going to be a good lawyer, you have to know in yourself that you are. You have to say bullshit. Bullshit. Because people will tell you you're not going to make it. They tell you that on the first day. So you have to just, they're not going to hold your hand. And I'm telling you, it's rough, but it's so good. It's so good because you're surrounded with people who are like you, and they're just as motivated, and they have a big why too. So when you're around these people, even if you didn't have your why before, but you knew intuitively this is where you're supposed to be, like it was for me, you find your why after. So either know your purpose or know yourself and know your intuition. And if your body is calling you to law school, go. Okay? As long as you have the other two things that I'm about to talk about. Okay. Moving on. That was really long. Whew, I need a sip after that. Next, we have mobility. And with mobility, it's pretty simple and self-explanatory, okay? All of these are very self-explanatory. But you need to think about whether you have a family, whether you're tied to the community, whether you're tied to, you have rental properties, you have other businesses. All of these things are really important to consider, because if you're just getting a law degree for it to be kind of something that you use in the future, maybe you're looking to be a business owner and you just want the degree to do your own licensing, etc. That's a different story. But if you're trying to practice in a certain, region, you really need to think long-term about whether you want to stay there, because a lot of students are fresh out of college and they go to law school and they don't realize, oh my God, I can't go to New York and practice. I have to take a whole different bar option. You can, of course, the bar exam is, half of it is standardized and half of it, the essay portion, is related to the local rules of your state. But as far as you being able to take multiple bar exams, it's definitely something you can do. Do I recommend it? No, it's not easy. My best friend, she had to take Nevada and California bar, and that was tough. Once you do it once, you really don't want to do it again. It's not something that's, oh, I'm just gonna take the test again. Once you're done with it, the knowledge tends to go out the window, and you have to really take the time to generate the same memorization, and you have to be quick. So it's not easy. You really need to think about where you want to practice. Now, if you're not in California, and you're not in New York, and you're in a non-UBE state, you are at a huge benefit. Essentially, you can use a UBE license to practice across multiple states. So I have a list here, and I'll link it below, of non-UBE states. So California and New York, which are the hardest. It's Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Mississippi, Nevada, South Dakota, Virginia, Wisconsin, Puerto Rico and Guam, Northern Mariana Islands, and Palau, which I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, and I'll include a link below. But if you are in any of the states that I just mentioned, you are pretty limited to that. Now, all of this is being changed. So I want to include a huge disclaimer that the pandemic has entirely changed the landscape of the legal field, because in my firm now, we have attorneys practicing from Colorado, we have attorneys practicing from Barbados, from Italy. We have all sorts of remote employees, and that's across the nation. It's been pretty recognized that the virtual courts are here to stay. So virtual courts have completely changed the game ability in terms of allowing lawyers to practice from different states. I can go to Colorado and practice in California so long as I don't have to be in person for a trial. Now, local rules are always different. In California, they're here to stay. And so it's been a huge relief to know that if I wanted to get a remote job, even in Los Angeles, and I'm in the Bay Area, I'm able to do that. It's a lot more flexibility, and it's very exciting. I'm very excited to see where this whole virtual court takes us, because the new generation of attorneys are so different in just that respect alone. So the fact that we're able to go to Hawaii and go to trial still has given us a lot of freedom that we did not have before. I'm very, very excited about it. Moving on from mobility, the last topic we have is money, moolah. This is extremely important. I mean, we can't beat around the bush here. Law school is expensive. It's expensive, baby. It's very expensive. And I'm coming from a privileged perspective in terms of I had to take out law school loans, but I didn't have undergrad loans. If you have undergrad loans, that exponentially increases the amount that you're going to have to expend, because interest builds up. You're not going to be working for the time that is building. So a little bit of research for you. There was a study done in 2016 by the National Post-Secondary Student Aid Survey regarding student debt. And for law school graduates, it was an average of $145K of student debt. This is nationwide. And this is more if you have loans from undergrad or you don't have money for a room and board. So if you have to pay extra, if you have to pull out more money for rent. So again, I was privileged. Not only did I not have undergrad debt, I also had help with my rent from my family, and I also had a scholarship. So the reason I chose the school I chose is because I had a 40% scholarship. So I basically almost had half off of my tuition. All of that said, my current law school loan, I'm being very upfront here, they're above 170K. So just keep that in mind. I went to an expensive law school. I also went to an expensive law school in California. It was more. This is different if you live somewhere with a lower cost of living. It's scary, really, really frightening, but I didn't care. Again, this goes back to the why. This goes back to your motive. It has to be more than money for you, because when you crunch the numbers at the end of the day, you're not getting that much more because of the debt that you have to pay back. Now, if you have someone paying for your law school, that's more power to you. Or if you get a full ride, snaps for you. But most people, they got to pay these back. And yeah, so there's a lot more that goes into that, but scholarships are really big deal. At the end of the day, no one really asks you where you graduated from as long as you have a license. So if you get a better scholarship at a different school that has good rankings and good support for you, I would always recommend you go to the school that gives you the most scholarship. You'll thank me later for that. And that's what I did. I was accepted into other schools that were maybe better in ranking, but the school I went to gave me a really good scholarship. So I decided to go with that. Now, no one asks me, where did you go to law school? Rarely. You need to want it more than anything else, because it's not cheap, all right? It's not cheap, and it's not easy. All of that being said, I'm on the other side. I don't regret a moment of it. Law school was the best years of my life. I have met lifelong friends. I have had the best experiences. I chose to study abroad in law school. That's a whole other video that I would love to share with you guys, but law school changed everything for me. It was worth every penny. It was the best decision I've ever made. and I don't know where I'm going with this degree. I don't know where life's going to take me, but I know that I made the right decision. So trust your gut, all right? You know what you're supposed to do, even if you don't know what it's going to look like for you. So I hope that helps. I hope that you got something out of this video. Again, if you enjoyed this, please comment a scale. Comment a scale, because we're balanced babies over here, and I'm a Libra rising, Libra moon, so we're all about the scales of justice. To see you guys in my next video. Subscribe, put on that notification bell. You're going to be seeing a lot more of me in the weeks and months to come. So I'm super excited, and let me know what other videos you would like to see from me. Okay? All right. Mwah. See you babies later. Love you, sillies.